Good day, this is MassX bringing you a new Bleach Immortal Souls video. I finally got around to, with the help of his in-game name is Ichigo. He's the leader of the group I run with. And we put together a tier list that's current as of the last release. And so I wanted to just go through it with everybody. Starting with what we consider the top tier, tier 0. First up is Nell, without a doubt. She is, in my opinion, hands down the best character in the game. Her damage, her assistance with others, the damage increase she gives. She's just an all-around great character. You can't go wrong with her. Her skill set's amazing. She does all the hard work. She's great on one-on-one, player versus player. She's phenomenal in teams, as well as, you know, she's a team leader for the Vermilion set. If you're spending no money in the game, the only one I would invest in would be Nell. Next up, which arguably has fallen a bit. He was top tier until Nell came around. Was Yamamoto. He's still a great player. His skill set, his burn, his stun, rage reduction, his skills, he's still worth investing in. He does hard work for you, and does great damage. Those are the only two that we consider right now top of the line tier 0. Tier 1 gets a little bit more trickier. There are some that are close but not quite there yet. First off, and I believe the only SSR, oh, I take that back, we have 2 SSRs in tier 1. The first one is Mayuri. He's a beast. He poisons, he paralyzes. He's a decent tank if you set him up well. He comes back to life. I mean, what more can I say? And he's an SSR, so it costs you less to build him. He's tier 1 in our opinion. The other SSR that we think is tier 1 is Kensei. He is just become the tank that Kirakuku was, still is, but Kensei just does it better all the way around. And now with some of the newer releases, some other characters that I may discuss later, you can set up quite a wall with Kensei. But Kensei and Mayuri are tier 1, the only SSRs that are that high up. Well worth the investments, easier to get, cost less to build, primo characters for your team. Next tier 1 is still one of my favorites, Kenpachi. When you're just looking for a pure, no holds barred attacker, he just does it and does it so well. In his rebuilding of rage, the damage he does, the crit that he can give off to your back row, he's just, again, good. And he was free to play early on in the game. So, I mean, what more can I say about him? He's been around a while. I don't see him going anywhere. A lot of people said they were going to substitute him out. I'm not. He does the work. He does it well. I won't change it. Next are probably our other two soul, or all 3 soul hall leaders that go along with Nell. Foster Lord Ichigo. I wasn't sold on him when he first came out, but the more I use him and the more you build him, he is a pretty darn good attacker. His rage stealing, life steal, his skill set, and let's be honest, he's a soul leader for one of the Sage Halls. So you gotta put him tier 1. Eucoria, His version 2, same. Another Soul Hall leader. He's provides shields. He's a good tank. He's just, you know, he's turning out to be someone that I'm substituting in frequently in my teams. I'm working on actually a build all around him right now. I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. He's got too much upside. And the last one, and probably the weakest, in my opinion, of all of them, is Grimjaw. He's been a bit of a disappointment. He does good, a decent attack. His skill set's good. I mean, his rage, you know, he does the work, but he's just not as good as the other 3. But the fact that he's a Soul Hall leader, and that Soul Hall with him is pretty good. And when he's teamed with the right people around him, he does do a good job. I'm hoping that I see some improvement with him with other characters that will help him. But again, on a rage reduction team, he does well. So we put him tier 1. Probably the one that was the hardest for me to put in tier 1. I was really back and forth on it, but because he's a Sage Hall leader, I thought we had to. Next up is one of my absolute favorite characters. I use him all the time. Ever since they did the adjustments, he's freaking great. Shinji. He's just a great attacker. And his skill, I mean, the Awakened Sero is just nasty. Just a nasty attack. And I love him. He's great on one-on-one. He's great on teams, especially on when you put him up with a rage reduction team, or you set him up with Nell and use her Sage Hall. Just great. Can't say too much more about him. Next up, oldie but a goodie, still good in our opinions, Aizen. Good damage dealer, stays alive, hits first turn. If you use the right War Souls on him, I mean, I haven't changed his War Souls in so long, but I use Wrath and Mystery, and he's just a beast. Still is, especially on one-on-one. I set him up with specific teams where I know I need some first hits. He's just a good character. And you can get him long-term free to play too, so that's the upside. The last other tier 1 that we had was Urahara. And similar to Shinji, he's come up the ranks through the months. He's a great tank. You put him with a bleed team and he's shielding your team. You know, he can entangle. He's just a strong frontline character, especially when you work him with a bleed team. Our tier 2 characters, I'll go through a little bit quicker just so I can get through everything. Zangetsu was the first one. Still someone I use a lot. If you watch my videos, you know, he just strong attack, does bleed, can stun, rage reduction. I mean, I use him a lot for his rage reduction bleed. That's the key when I use him. Next, another great serviceable tank. I don't use her much, but I see her used a lot, and I know exactly why. Yoruichi. Since they made the adjustments with her, she's become a really good tank. You put her with an all-girl team, I mean, she definitely has upside. This one was a tough one. He's between tier 1 and tier 2 in my eye, Waiichigo. Waiichigo has a bunch of upside and he has a bunch of downside. But when he goes off with his rage and you get multiples and he's silencing, you know, you're in good shape. Very strong. Another character that I probably like more than a lot of people do is Byakuya, if I can find him. You know, kind of like Ichigo, who's also was close to being tier 2, but he's fallen. You know, he's an SSR that you get the power up to a UR. Costs less to build. Has a ton of upsides with his bleed, and he attacks the whole field. Especially for free to play, he's great. Can save money, and he's an effective character. Next up is version 1 Grimjaw. I like him probably more than a lot of people do. He's great in one-on-one. I actually use him a lot in team plays and in Kenpachi contests because he's just a strong-ass attacker. I mean, he just, yeah, he's only hitting one, but he's taking them down more often than not. Next up was one of my absolute favorite characters early on in the game. He's slid quite a bit. I still use him a lot. Kiraku. He's a great tank, still is. You know, we've had some new ones come out, but he's still a beast as a tank. If you have him, use him because you can really abuse him on teams in front line. And he has a decent attack. He really does. Another one of my favorite characters still, who I've talked about in previous videos, is Eukoria version 1. This guy is just a monster when it comes to player versus player. He has a lot of upside. Great tank. Can't say much more about him. I've said it in other videos. It seems like all my favorite characters are tier 2. There must be something wrong with me. Bankai Toshiro. I've been using him since day one. I love him with his freeze. I use mine, you know, even though his specialty is attacker, freeze all. I use him defensively. I put a War Soul of Armor on him, War Soul of Evil, and I frontline him. And I'm not looking for him to do damage. I'm looking him to stun or freeze and block. And if he kills somebody, great. I've been using him forever. I still think he's great. But I like him not as a pure attacker, but as a defensive character to freeze up the other team or stun them, give you time to take out their players. It's, in my opinion, that's what he's best for. Let's go through the last of these a little bit quicker. Some oldies but goodies. Komamura, still great tank, very good to use. Hiyori, great attacker, good tank. She's great for Vermilion teams. Who else? Oh, there's so many. Dordoni. I haven't used him much, but he's just he's a good SSR or a good SR, which is interesting because having an SR, he's even cheaper to build. So if you're looking to save money, you can work with him very well in his skill set. Urahara, she's tier 2, could be tier 1 possibly because of what's going on with the meta in the game. I don't know if she's quite there yet, but she's just, I mean, she's only decent healer for the most part. I mean, all around healer. But what she does when she dies, incredibly useful. If she lives, she's increasing your rage on your team. She's slowing it down on the opponent. She's just a good all-around character and an SSR. So, I mean, it doesn't cost you as much. So that's always helpful. Let's see. Natora, I like him. He does the grunt work, you know. He sits up there and he doesn't die right away. Can't say much more. Not much of an attacker when it's all said and done. But what he does do is he provides a wall for your back line to do what they're supposed to do. Last but not least are a couple of the new characters, which are really surprisingly good, and I'm working on them currently because what they can do is really interesting. In particular, I mean, Halle Bell, the UR, she just has a great skill set. Great on a female team on top of it. I think she's a must on an all-female team. Just a good all-around character. But the one that's been the most interesting is so far is Baragon. You team him up with Kensei, and you're effectively creating a wall out there. I haven't dug in on him. Some other players have, and I'm hearing about what they do, the switch offs between their skills, and you know, if he does what everybody's saying, he's just a solid character, the front line with your Kensei. Last is the other Halle Bell, the SSR. She's got a surprisingly good skill set too. So we threw her into tier 2 also. To kind of shorten this video up, you know, the remaining characters, we have a tier 3 that I can go through pretty quickly. It's got the Ichigo, who in my opinion still is a good serviceable character. Gin, who I absolutely love. I use him on my bleed teams all the time in specialty circumstances. Who else do we have on there? Matsumoto, who used to be just a phenomenal character. She's kind of dropped down a bit because there's other characters that do what she does better, but she's still a good serviceable character to play. Lisa, again, great attacker. Can't say enough about her as an attacker. The Rukia SSR, her freeze is just phenomenal. Well done. Yatura, she's still strong, does a good job. You know, if you have her and your funds are limited, I mean, she's a great one to work with. Another one that seems to drop a lot on pulls, who isn't my favorite tank, but he does a decent job. And if you're just looking to make, you know, the best teams you can with what you got, Yami, he does a good job. You know, if you don't have some of the higher ends, not going to spend the money, there's nothing wrong with investing in Yami. He definitely has his moments, to say the least. The last one we had in tier 3 was... why am I not being able to find her? Well, that's just great. Let's back out. It'll be easier when I can see everybody. Oh, yeah, it's one of those days. It's probably right in front of me and I'm swinging past it every time. Well, that's awfully strange. I must be blind as a bat. There we go. Soy Fawn. You know, she's good. She's become actually more usable now with some of the setups going on, especially with the Unicide. She's a strong attacker. Outside of that, you know, our tier 4, you know, without belaboring it, there's no reason to. You know, what I find in this game is all characters, especially in the SSRs, they're serviceable. You can make do if you're creative with your teams. So it just matters what you're looking to do. That's kind of a quick rundown of our top 3 tiers. If YouTube was nice enough, I would post the whole thing. What I'll probably do is just post it up underneath the link to the YouTube video, wherever I post it in. So if anybody wants to download it. Again, thanks for your time. Hope some of this was informative. I know it was kind of rushed, but there's so many characters and it's only going to get worse. It's kind of hard to get through all of them. Have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.